Every serious game needs consequences for failure. If there's no punishment, victory tastes like unrolled white maps, technically functional, emotionally empty, and filled with zero tinks or challenge. But Path of Exile 2? PoE2 doesn't just punish you for dying. It finds you. It confiscates your loot. It burns your Atlas node down and asks if you've learned anything. Then, it steals your girl. And because most of the time you never clearly know why you died, that punishment hits even harder, which is why so many PoE2 players crash out and quit the game. Some for a minute, some for a day, some for a week, and more than a few, forever. Usually right after whispering, "What killed me?" to an empty Discord call. Hi, Exiles. Welcome to another episode of PoE2 Quit Moments, a series where I lay out problems I've personally experienced, propose solutions, and ask you and Grinding Gear Games to do the same. This isn't whining. This isn't dooming. This isn't me standing outside GGG headquarters holding a sign that says, "I want the game to be easier and contain zero punishments." It's constructive feedback and an attempt to foster discussion about a game many of us genuinely enjoy and want to see get better. If you appreciate that kind of discussion, thank you. Dropping a like, sharing your take in the comments, or subscribing genuinely helps keep this channel alive longer than a melee character standing in a Shade Walker puddle. So let's dive into today's PoE2 Quit Moment. Overwhelming punishments for death. We're going to be exhaustive here before presenting solutions, and no, not all of those solutions will be remove death penalties. That would be too easy, and also not very Path of Exile. First, what happens when you die during the campaign or in interlude acts? It's fairly straightforward. All monsters respawn in the zone, you lose any loot that was on the ground, you fight your way back through the zone from the last checkpoint, and if you died on a boss, congratulations, you get to fight them again from 100% health. Annoying sometimes, but understandable. Yeah, it's classic ARPG stuff. Now, let's talk about the mammoth. When you die in Path of Exile 2's endgame, specifically while running a Waystone, here's what happens. You lose 10% of your progress to your next level. If you die while fighting a boss, you respawn at the boss room entrance, and everything else in the map despawns and is lost. Your loot doesn't go to standard, it all went to Atziri's considerable assets. On Waystones with fewer than 6 modifiers, you get multiple attempts outlined on screen right now, and on Waystones with 6 or more modifiers, you get 1 life. You die, you're done. And if you completely fail a Waystone, you lose the ability to use tablets on that Atlas node, you lose any special content that appeared there, and you lose the chance for random content to spawn on retries. And if that node was a citadel, it's gone, vanished, reduced to a little bit of fluff text and extreme emotional damage. Same deal for corrupted nexuses and anomaly boss maps. Any one of these punishments might serve as a quit moment, but not for the reason you might suspect. Here's where I get sneaky. I've listed a lot of punishments, but you may have noticed I haven't actually said these are bad or should be removed from Path of Exile 2, because honestly, I'm fine with them, with basically all of them, and I think many of you would be too. Wait, don't leave, hear me out. The real problem isn't the punishment. The problem is dying, not knowing why, and that being the source of severe frustration for players new and old. That is the real quit moment in my eyes. Consequence without explanation or clarity. Path of Exile 2 is incredibly complex. Sometimes you don't die because you played poorly or your knowledge check landed on a natural 1. You die because Waystone modifiers interact or stack in a way you didn't expect. A specific monster attack was far more powerful than you anticipated. A critical hit annihilated you. You lagged or crashed. You looked away for a moment to lock eyes with your wife, or because Grinding Gear Games decided it was simply your time. And when that happens, punishment without clarity doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel fair. It feels angering, infuriating, and massively frustrating. It causes players to quit. So here's my main pitch. Give us a death recap. That's it. It sounds simple enough, but Grinding Gear Games has expressed this is too difficult, that getting 90% of the way there is possible, but achieving the final 10% would be tricky. I'd argue this being implemented in one of the forms I will propose in a moment would be as big a quality of life addition to PoE2 as the addition of asynchronous trade or sprint. Just tell us or show us how we die, and I promise a huge chunk of this frustration the player base experiences disappears overnight. There are a couple of ways to do this. Yes, I'm simplifying, and yes, they're probably very hard to implement for grinding your games, but I'm still throwing them out there as I think this is incredibly important and something that GGG is just missing out on. The best but hardest solution would be a damage breakdown covering the last 4 seconds before death, recently before death. Show us which monsters hit us, which abilities they used, what types of damage were dealt, and how much damage was dealt from each source. Not just the final hit, but the story of the death. Dota 2 does something like this, and it's incredible for learning. I would love to see this in Path of Exile 2. Alternatively, or additionally, an instant replay of the death would be amazing. This is how streamers improve. They rewind, analyze, and learn. But if you're not recording or streaming, you're just left staring at the death screen like, Anyway, FPS games have done this for years, or at least they did back when I played exactly one match of Warzone in 2019 and immediately retired. Here's why all of this matters. Yes, the punishments still exist, but now you have information. Now you can actually adjust your build, your defenses, or your playstyle instead of just rage quitting the game because of a frustrating death, wherein you have no clue what killed you. Every single one of us has been there, probably multiple, if not dozens of times so far in Path of Exile 2. And it sucks. Now, there is one area I'm willing to be persuaded on when it comes to extreme punishment for death. Waystones with 6 or more modifiers currently give you 1 portal. I'd be fine with grinding your games increasing that to 2, because no matter how many defensive layers you build, there will always be random deaths, lag spikes, or an act of God personally targeting your character. The intention is clearly to push defenses in the late game, but what often happens instead is players go full glass cannon and try to kill everything before anything can look at them funny. So, am I wrong here? Am I too in love with death? Do you still think the punishments themselves are too severe? Or do you agree that simply understanding how you died would make them far more tolerable? Let me know in the comments. And that's the 3rd episode of PoE2 Quit Moments. That's today's episode. Let me know what you think. Am I right, wrong, or is there some deeper nuance to death I did not explore? If you enjoyed the content, thank you. Dropping a like, sharing your thoughts in a comment, sharing the video, or subscribing means a lot and helps keep the channel talkative.